Matthew 26, verse 57 to 68. The trial of the Messiah. Matthew records the events that unfold immediately after the arrest of Jesus. The narrative moves from the garden to the house of the high priest, where the leaders of Israel assemble to judge the one whom the scriptures had promised. Verses 57 to 58. Those who had seized Jesus led him away to Caiaphas the high priest, where the scribes and elders were gathered together. But Peter was following him at a distance as far as the courtyard of the high priest. The scene takes place within the ruling religious structure of Israel. The scribes and elders represented the leadership of the covenant nation. Their gathering was not merely a legal proceeding, it was the culmination of a long-standing tension between Jesus and the religious authorities. Throughout his ministry, he exposed the emptiness of a system that had become centered on law, tradition, and human righteousness. Peter's distant following stands in contrast to the calm resolve of Jesus. While the disciples remain uncertain and fearful, Jesus moves forward deliberately into the events that would fulfill the purpose for which he came. The trial was not a tragedy, but the unfolding of what had been foretold in the prophets. Verses 59 to 61. Now the chief priests and the whole council kept trying to obtain false testimony against Jesus so that they might put him to death. They did not find any, even though many false witnesses came forward. Matthew highlights the irony of the proceedings. Those responsible for upholding the law violate its very principles. The law required truth and the agreement of witnesses, yet the leaders sought testimony that would justify a predetermined sentence. Their inability to establish a legitimate charge reveals the innocence of the one standing before them. Finally, two witnesses claim that Jesus said he would destroy the temple and rebuild it in 3 days. Their statement echoes words Jesus had spoken earlier about the temple of his body. Yet they misunderstood the deeper meaning. Jesus spoke of a coming transformation greater than the physical temple, something that would redefine the relationship between God and his people. Verses 62 to 64. The high priest stood up and said to him, "Do you not answer? What is it that these men are testifying against you?" But Jesus kept silent. The silence of Jesus fulfills the pattern described by the prophet Isaiah, who wrote of the servant who would be led like a lamb to the slaughter and remain silent before his accusers. The quiet composure of Jesus stands against the agitation of the council. Pressed further, Jesus finally responds to the high priest's question about his identity. "You have said it yourself. Nevertheless, I tell you, from now on, you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of power and coming on the clouds of heaven." Here Jesus draws from the language of Daniel 7. The imagery describes the Son of Man receiving authority, dominion, and kingdom from the Ancient of Days. His statement declares that the authority being rejected by the leaders of Israel would soon be vindicated. The language of coming on the clouds echoes the prophetic imagery used throughout the Hebrew scriptures for divine judgment and enthronement. Jesus' words therefore announce that the kingdom authority promised in the prophets was about to be revealed. The one standing before them as a prisoner would soon be acknowledged as the enthroned Son of Man. Verses 65 to 66. Then the high priest tore his robes and said, "He has blasphemed. What further need do we have of witnesses?" The tearing of garments symbolizes outrage, yet it also reveals the blindness of the leadership. In accusing Jesus of blasphemy, they reject the very one whom their scriptures foretold. Their judgment exposes the failure of the old religious order to recognize the fulfillment standing before them. The council declares him deserving of death. Their verdict reflects the culmination of Israel's resistance to the prophetic voice that called the nation back to faithfulness. Verses 67 to 68. Then they spat in his face and beat him with their fists. And others slapped him, saying, "Prophesy to us, you Christ, who is the one who hit you?" The mockery of Jesus reflects the humiliation foretold in the prophetic writings. The servant of the Lord would be despised, rejected, and struck. Yet in the midst of the humiliation, the narrative moves steadily toward the accomplishment of redemption. What appears to be defeat is, in reality, the path toward the completion of God's redemptive plan. The rejection by the leaders of Israel becomes the means through which the promised deliverance is secured. Matthew therefore presents this trial not merely as an injustice, but as a moment within the unfolding fulfillment of Scripture. The Messiah stands condemned by the very system that pointed forward to him. Yet through this condemnation, the transition from the old covenant order toward the fully realized reign of the Son of Man moves closer to completion. In this scene, the rejected Messiah is revealed as the one who will soon be vindicated, enthroned, and recognized as the rightful king, whose authority cannot be overturned by earthly courts.